All right, so for today's notes, these notes are going to be all about um, changing a position graph into a velocity graph. Okay, sorry, by the way, like when you see the top of my head, I'm recording on my camera, but I also have my iPad in front of me. So I'm writing on the iPad, but you guys get to see me. So sorry, like if you see my face or my head while I'm looking down, but that's just how it is. So deal with it. All right, so this is going to be all about changing a position graph into a velocity graph. Um, so we know that for any motion, so for any object that's moving, um, that object is going to have a position graph and a velocity graph. We made like in our labs, we just made position graphs and velocity graphs for those cars going up and down the ramp. So we know that each moving object has both graphs. But what if I just give you position and then ask you to come up with the velocity? So that's what you're going to do in the assignment today after these notes. So we're going to learn how to do that. Um, so the first thing we want to talk about is positive velocity versus negative velocity. So I'm just going to draw a position versus time. Okay, so that's time, that's position. So we have two basic things that happen. We could either have an uphill line or we could have a downhill line. And let's keep in mind also, oh man, what is that? Okay, we'll do that later, Mac. There we go. Hey, we're back. Um, and so this could even be curved, right? So I mean, it doesn't have to be uphill or downhill like that. It could be like that's uphill, that's downhill. Okay. But the big thing we want to see is that uphill means positive velocity, whereas downhill means negative velocity. Okay, so that's really important. Now, the way that I kind of want to talk about this is I want to make a table. All right, so here's what my table is going to be. I'm going to say position graph on this side, and then velocity graph on this side. Okay, so if, all right, here we'll do this. If my position graph is uphill, okay, then my velocity graph is positive, which means it is above 0. If my position graph is downhill, oh man, that is not, that's two U's, that's not a W. My position graph is downhill, then my velocity graph is negative, or below 0. Okay, so those are my first two rules. And we're going to add on to this table in a second. So I'm actually going to leave two more spaces. Okay. So leave yourself two spaces. Like that. Okay. Oh, come on. Show up. What are you doing? Come on. Don't freeze on me now. You're supposed to be working. Ah, it's frustrating. Okay. All right. Sorry for the delay. All right. So make sure that your table looks kind of like that. Okay. All right. Next. Why is this thing struggling so bad? All right, so next rule is if your, so for position graph, if the slope is increasing, that means the velocity is speeding up. Okay? If slope is decreasing, that means that I'm slowing down. All right, so let's look at what that means if I draw a graph, okay? All right, so increasing slope right there. All right, so my slope starts off pretty flat and ends up pretty steep, okay? So that is increasing and speeding up. Okay, so let's draw another one. If it looks like that, well, there it starts off pretty steep and then changes to pretty flat. So this is decreasing or slowing down. Okay, so I know that increasing slope means speeding up, decreasing means slowing down. Okay, so for the position graph, if it is an increasing slope, that means velocity is speeding up. If it is a decreasing slope, that means that the velocity is slowing down. Now, there's two more notes I want to put on this, and then I'll explain what those mean, and then I'll be done with this, okay? So, for speeding up, all right? Speeding up means that your velocity has to be, how do I want to write that? It's going to be moving away from 0. All right? Slowing down is going to mean it's moving towards 0. All right, so let's draw what that means. So let's go down here, and I'm going to draw. Now this is a velocity versus time graph, okay? So what I have to recognize is that if my line is going to be above 0, speeding up looks like this. See how my line is getting farther away? So if 0 is here, my line is getting farther away from 0. I'm making a bigger space there. Okay? Now, so this is speeding up. If my line goes down towards 0, this is slowing down. And that probably makes sense. Up is speeding up, down is slowing down. But if we're below the axis, okay? So if my arrow goes like that, that's getting farther away from 0. So this object, so if you ever had an object with that type of line, that is actually speeding up. Where this, the uphill but below the line, is slowing down. So if it's getting closer to 0, this one, whoops, we'll do it like this, okay? This one and this one, as they move along, are moving towards the middle. So they're slowing down. That one and that one are moving away from the middle. So they're speeding up. That's really important that we know that, okay? So when I look at this, speeding up is away from 0, slowing down is towards 0, okay? So we should be able to use all this information now to go ahead and complete the assignment that you guys have for today. All right, thanks for watching.